We all got our favorite ways to catch one of our favorite fish. Wall netto, nice head ball.
Wall dogs.
My first walleye of the season, and I am loving it.
Whether a lake, river, reservoir fish.
I'm gonna pin the boat here for a second or two.
In the right area. There we go. Just an odd spot, but this is where they're at, isn't it? There's our walleye.
Threw it out and boom, right away. It was like 2 seconds.
Just saw those fish on the electronics.
This is a huge fish. Oh, it's a walleye! It's a walleye!
No way.
Seriously!
Welcome to AnglingBuzz TV, presented by Fleet Farm. I'm Nick Linder, and on today's show we're going to be talking all about where to find early season walleyes and how to catch them. Our special guest is Jason Freed, and he's a guide out on Leech Lake. Now Jason, obviously Leech Lake is extremely well known for its excellent walleye fishing, but the lake itself has a lot of diverse habitat and forage and is really great for a lot of different species.
That's true. Throughout the summer months, our guide service guides for everything from walleyes, bass, muskies, and sometimes even panfish. You know, Leech Lake is a truly fascinating fishery. It provides so many different opportunities, but as well as tons of amount of structure, from sand flats to deep and shallow water structures, break lines throughout the whole lake, various types of shallow bays, deeper bays. Right now, the best walleye fishing for me has been honestly in 12 feet or less. And that's pretty common on Leech Lake, especially early in the year, to focus on those more shallow depths and even throughout the whole summer months.
Yeah, that's awesome. You know, that's actually one of my favorite ways to catch walleyes, up shallow, fishing aggressively. Now, if you had to ID one primary factor to finding fish on a big lake like this, what would it be?
You know, that's one simple word: wind. Wind is everything when it comes to Leech Lake. Wind is what drives bait fish, and oftentimes will congregate them in different parts of the lake. And where those bait fish congregate, you're going to find active schools of walleyes feeding. Wind can really take what is a massive lake and really downsize it to a lake that is really fishable, and also helps fishermen really find those congregated walleyes. Now, on those days when you don't have wind and with clear water, it can make for some pretty tough conditions sometimes to find fish, and that's where you have to adapt as a fisherman.
Yeah, you know, that makes a lot of sense. There's a lot of forage on Leech Lake as well, whether it be shiner minnows, perch, crayfish, bugs, you name it. So there's no shortage of food for them to eat on Leech. With that being said, what are a few of your favorite tactics for catching walleyes out there?
You know, for me, the number one presentation I'm going to start with, especially the beginning of the year and then into June as well, and sometimes even farther into the summer, is going to be the good old jig and minnow. And the number one baited choice is going to be a spot tail shiner. But when you're using those jigs, you want to use anywhere from a 16th ounce all the way up to a 1/4 ounce, depending on the depth and the wind. And when we're using those jigs, we're trying to focus on anywhere those sand to rock transition areas. And we're either going to be pitching those jigs, or we're going to be drifting and snapping those jigs along. And it is really a great presentation to catch Leech Lake walleyes. The second presentation or baited choice is going to be a jig and a plastic. And as we move farther into the summer months here, we're going to really focus on using things like 3 to 4 inch paddle tails. And as we fan cast and we use these paddle tails or these swim baits, we're trying to keep that bait just above the bottom and ticking things as we go, or ripping through the cabbage and trying to find those really active Leech Lake walleyes. It really is a great presentation to find aggressive and reaction style bites on Leech Lake, and we use it all throughout the lake. We're going to use it anywhere where there's sand, weed transitions, cabbage beds, as well as shallow gravel and rock bars.
There we go.
The third and probably the most aggressive presentation we use on Leech Lake is going to be casting jigging wraps throughout the lake. You know, we like to focus on those large, expansive sand flats or gravel bars, and anywhere from 4 to 12 feet of water. And so for many anglers, a jigging wrap is kind of seen as a deep water structure bait. We like to use it as a real search style bait where we can make these casts. And what we think these jigging wraps are doing are mimicking the thousands of crayfish that inhabit Leech Lake. And as these jigging wraps are landing in the sand, that is what's provoking these Leech Lake walleyes into biting, because they think that they're crayfish coming in and out of the sand grass. And so it is a great presentation to find active walleyes and covering a lot of area on Leech Lake.
That's some really good stuff, Jason. You know, a lot of the stuff you talked about today is not only applicable on Leech, but a lot of different walleye fisheries all across the upper Midwest. Now, don't go anywhere, because when we come back, we have more early season walleye tips as Angling Buzz continues.
Want to learn how to catch more and bigger fish? Well, we've got the place for you. Introducing the Fish Head Video Library. Now you can enjoy hour after hour of educational videos right on your phone, tablet, laptop, desktop, or even stream videos right to your TV. Largemouth, smallmouth, walleye, catfish, muskie, pike and panfish, open water or on the ice. Check out Fish Head TV to rent, buy, or become a Fish Head member today.
Sportfish Michigan is your #1 source for top charter captains and fishing guides in Michigan. Our network of professionals are full-time anglers with years of experience providing customers with the best possible fishing trip services. Fish for trout, salmon, steelhead on Lake Michigan or its famous tributary rivers, the Traverse City area's world-class smallmouth bass, walleye fishing on the Detroit River and Saginaw Bay, or northern Michigan's spectacular ice fishing. We do it all. Sportfish Michigan. Get out. Get bit.
Lake Vermilion. Explore. Relax. Reconnect.
Minnesota's most beautiful lake.
Get hooked on our trophy walleye,
That's a beauty.
bass,
My favorite fish.
musky fish.
That's a beauty there.
Things to do? You'll never get bored.
Rooms with a view? We got 'em.
Lake Vermilion. 4 seasons of fun.
Like many of you, I've had back issues.
From the pounding waves of Lake Erie.
To over 30 years of competitive angling.
And a lifetime on the water, but not anymore.
Smooth moves changed the game.
It's a must-have for me and my clients.
It's like my boat is floating on air.
They're easy to install.
Fully adjustable.
It makes a day on the water a whole lot more comfortable.
Smooth your ride with Smooth Moves.
From the kennel to the coop, whatever the season, Fleet Farm has everything to keep your animals happy and healthy. Whether it's keeping the backyard birds well-fed season, mastering those retrieval skills season, or wondering who takes care of who season. There's a reason people say if Fleet Farm doesn't have it, you don't need it, because we have it all. Fleet Farm, built for real life.
Welcome back to Angling Buzz. Now coming up, Joel Nelson is going to break down the when, where, and why of different walleye lures you can be using right now. When do you bust out the jigging wraps for walleye?
You know, jigging wraps, being a vertical presentation and the fact that they're so heavy, they fish really well deep. So if I've got deep water and walleye situations and they're off the bottom and they look aggressive, I can count on those fish to be visual eaters, on the prowl, ready to hunt. That's a jigging wrap situation all day.
When do you like to cast crankbaits?
I don't tend to cast crankbaits unless I know I've had consistent wind out of the same direction, better than 10 miles an hour, maybe 15 miles an hour, gusting even higher for a period of time to really get those shallow fish going. I love fishing shallow fish. Shallow fish are up there eating. They're there for a reason, and crankbaits are the perfect way. Put the wind at your back, start hooking at the shoreline, and that's the key situation I'm looking for to fish crankbaits.
So when do you troll crankbaits?
Trolling is a great strategy for finding fish, first and foremost. Second of all, I troll crankbaits quite often when fish are scattered. Large structural elements, long runs of contiguous contour depth levels, that's where trolling comes into play for me.
What about jigs?
I think of a jig as a really precision-based extraction method. I mean, it's something where I'm seeing fish tightly balled on a structural element. I feel that if I can get right over the top of those fish, drop right back by the transducer, I feel like I've got a really good chance of catching those fish. So I'm looking for pods of fish on smaller structural elements before I break out the jigs.
When do you bust out the live bait rigs?
I really like pulling on rig fish where I've got maybe pods of fish that are moving a little bit. It's not a tiny structural element, maybe it's something a little bit larger, and fish are still potted up in groups, but they're a little more distributed. I feel with rigging, you can cover a little more ground because you're going maybe 0.5 miles an hour, so maybe call that a moderate to slow tactic, whereas jigging, you're focused right on top of those single pod of fish. So that's kind of how I break it up.
Now for rigging's faster, speedier cousin, when do you like to use blades?
Pulling spinners is awesome when you've got all kinds of stuff in the water column. I'm seeing bugs, I'm seeing bait, I'm seeing walleyes, and everything's kind of mishmashed in throughout the bottom 2 feet of the water column. The cool part about pulling spinner rigs is that you can cover some ground, but you can also slow down a little bit and pull on real tight specific groups if you've got them. So I call that more of a moderate speed tactic, somewhere in between rigging and trolling crankbaits, that I can still cover a little bit more ground, yet not be focused on an individual spot situation.
When do you prefer plastics?
I'm a big fan of plastics. I'll use plastics whenever I can get away with it. I think in the early part of the season, live bait, for the most part, my experience is that it's been preferential. But once you hit higher water temps, plastics are the ultimate. They're awesome because you can fish your baits a little more aggressively, and that promotes the ultimate action on plastics. So for me, plastics are all about once the water temp hits a certain degree range, and for the rest of the summer, plastics are usually my first try, and if they don't work, then I'll go to live bait.
Now those are some really good tips right there from Joel Nelson, and don't go anywhere because we have our Buzz Bite reports to come as Angling Buzz continues.
Looking for the perfect fishing vacation? Leech Lake, Minnesota. There's over 112,000 acres of water to explore with fantastic walleye, bass, pike, panfish, and trophy muskies. The fishing opportunities are endless. Leech Lake has it all with over 30 resorts, lodges, campgrounds, and hotels line its pristine shores. Plan your trip. It's Minnesota's original up north vacation destination.
Tired of doing this? Get a can of this and spend more time doing this. Seafoam helps engines start easier, run smoother, and last longer. Seafoam. Seafoam! Help your engine run smoother and last longer with Seafoam motor treatment. Just pour it in. Seafoam works to clean your fuel system, clean your oil system, and stabilizes fuel up to 2 years. Make the proven choice. Seafoam motor treatment. Available at Fleet Farm.
Customer first. That's their mission at Dondelinger Auto. It's not just about the sale. It's about giving you peace of mind for as long as you own that vehicle. Dondelinger is home to the lifetime powertrain warranty for new and pre-owned vehicles, plus 10 years of roadside assistance. They have an incredible variety of the most popular vehicles and offer pickup and drop-off for service. Stop in to experience the Dondelinger difference today.
On the lake, in the woods, or on the ice, keep powered up with Bold North Outdoors portable power stations. Our rugged multi-service power station is marine grade, weatherproof, and powered by long-lasting lithium phosphate batteries. Charge cell phones, tablets, and GoPros, or power fans, lights, fish finders, underwater cameras, and more. Recharge anywhere with our solar panel charger. Wherever your adventure takes you, you'll have current and be connected with Bold North portable power stations.
Welcome back to Angling Buzz. It's time for our Buzz Bite reports.
And we're starting out on Leech Lake with Leisure Outdoors.
You can catch walleyes on Leech Lake any way you want. Jigging a minnow, my favorite way to catch them is still hot. You can pitch a jigging wrap, you can pull a Lindy rig with a leech or a crawler, you can pull a spinner, you can pull crankbaits at night, you can slip bobber fish. You can catch walleyes every single way. The key is find the shiners, look at the wind, look at your water temps, all those things. It take as much information when you're driving your boat around, and you'll find big pods of fish. Before, we had small pods of fish. Now, those pods of fish have grown, we're catching them, and it's on fire.
In our next report, we're heading up north to Lake Vermilion with Billy Rosner.
The bass bite has really picked up here, both the largemouth and smallmouth. I've been just throwing 360 search baits at 4.5 incher. We'll catch you a lot of bass. Topwaters are working really well right now too, and that's a blast. Walleyes are kind of in a transition right now. They're out off that first break. They're moving out onto some of your reefs. That mud bite's going to start really picking up here. And don't forget your weeds too. You find that sandgrass, you're going to find a lot of bait fish in there. And those areas are putting out walleye too. And the muskies too, they're in a transition right now. They're kind of moving out of those bays. And they're going to set up on some of your deeper weed lines. They're going to kind of moving out to that rocky structure and that open water bite where they're out chasing tulipies. That's going to really pick up that open water bite.
And our next Buzz Bite is with Justin Geike in Wisconsin.
Right now, it's super important to be able to adapt to transition. Water temperatures are changing drastically. We've moved from anywhere between the mid-60s up into the mid-70s in some places. In the Wausau area right now, bluegills are on the beds, and also bow fishermen are really enjoying doing some carp shooting right now and spawning common carp. As far as the fishing goes, outside of panfish right now, bass is a really hot topic. Smallmouth bass are on their beds up in the Northwoods, and here in the Wausau area, smallmouth and largemouth have transitioned into their post-spawn area. And what we're doing is we're fishing with a variety of things depending on conditions. Yesterday we didn't have any shirts on, we were getting suntans and we we're having a good time. Today it's super cold out and it's raining. So you have to be able to, again, to transition and adapt. When things were really good yesterday, we're using jig and plastics combinations on deep weed growth. As far as conditions like today, gotta bring back the finesse. Get into things like a wacky rig Senko or a Ned rig, go down to a fluorocarbon leader, lighter line and presentations will be really good for you. Hey, as far as muskies, shallow new weed growth with bucktails has been really good. Topwater guys are having some actions with that too. Walleyes also moving on transition into early summer patterns we're catching when trolling with crankbaits.
And our next report is from Ben Wolf with Sportfish Michigan.
You know, it's mid-June now, and we have some awesome opportunities all across the state. For those fly anglers that are looking for something fun, we have, panfish on the beds, but also in the evenings and late afternoons, we have a great bug hatch starting, and that'll only get better and better as the water warms and the month progresses. Post-spawn smallmouth bass and largemouth bass, we have lots of great opportunities all across the state here. Soft plastic jerkbait or a Senko, those are great options right now, as well as topwaters. For those fishing bodies of water that have gobies, it's really important to get those males back onto the bed to defend the nest and really to help ensure great fishing for years to come. We want those fish to be able to spawn successfully. Walleye fishing continues to be great on Saginaw Bay and the Detroit River, and the lake trout fishing. Both trolling and jigging is really good right now. On a lot of the waters of Lake Michigan, those fish are in 40 to 70 feet depending on the water temperatures, and that kind of fluctuates with the wind. But either way, we have great opportunities for lake trout.
Because boaters know and follow Minnesota's aquatic invasive species laws, 98% of lakes are not known to have any zebra mussels. 95% are not known to have any kind of invasive animals or plants. Let's keep it this way. Clean aquatic plants and animals from boats, trailers, and equipment. Drain all water from watercraft, including the motor, and keep drain plugs out during transport. Dispose of unused bait properly. Together, we're preventing the spread of aquatic invasive species in Minnesota.
You can't choose the weather, but you can choose outerwear that works. Technical apparel, rain gear, soft shells, sunwear, when you need to stay comfortable all day, choose Blackfish, because you can't choose the weather.
Some lodges are just a cut above. Hawk Lake is one of those. They're the only Orvis-endorsed lodge in all of Ontario, and they're the 4-time finalists for the best Orvis lodge in all of North America. They feature cordon bleu trained chefs and offer some of the best freshwater fishing in the world. You can target trophy walleye, smallmouth bass, pike and lake trout on any of their 19 private lakes. Whether you fish with traditional gear or love fly fishing, Hawk Lake has you covered.
Now it's time for cool products brought to you by Fleet Farm. Now today we've been talking all about finding walleyes fast, and you can't talk about that topic without talking about spinner rigs. Now right here I have the Northland Butterfly blade. What's interesting about this particular blade is that it's made of polycarbonate, and what you can do with polycarbonate blades is fish them very, very slowly. These blades come in a handful of different configurations. You have a traditional rig right here. You have crawler rigs, super death rigs, which makes the hook and the bait spin in circles really fast. Sometimes that can be a triggering characteristic that the walleyes like. Additionally, you have the floating harness. Now next up, we have a lure that a lot of people would consider to be an ice fishing lure, and that's the Rapala jigging Rap, but I'm here to tell you, if you haven't heard already, it's a lot more than that. Now, this is an extremely effective bait during the midsummer period, early summer period, into fall, you name it, when the fish are really aggressive and want to snap an erratic bait. Now next up, we have a loud and aggressive bait, and that is the Rapala Rip and Wrap. Sometimes when you're trying to find fish, you want to have something that will actually call fish in from a distance. Not only will it give off a lot of vibration, but it also has an internal rattle system that'll give off a lot of rattling noise. Now next up is one of my personal favorite jigs, especially for river fishing situations, and that's the Northland Thumper jig. Now when you're fishing in dirty waters, that can be huge to have a little extra flash, vibration, thumping action to call fish to where you're at. Now next up on the list is the Salmo Rail Shad. As you can see right here, it's got a rail that goes across the top where the line tie can actually slide up and down depending on how you're fishing this bait. Now you can fish it like a traditional crankbait, but one really, really interesting characteristic of how this bait can be fished is if you want to use it vertically. It's a new concept on the market right now. Now traditional crankbaits have always been a big player when it comes to finding walleyes quickly, and this Rapala Shad Dancer should be in your arsenal. Now a lot of guys will use these baits for casting up into those mid-range levels. The number 5 that I have right here in my hand will actually dive to about 7 to 10 feet, which makes it a perfect presentation for fishing those areas, but it's also a really, really good trolling bait. Now speaking of trolling, if you're trying to cover water and find walleyes as quickly as possible, I would recommend using boards, especially if you're fishing somewhere where you have the ability to use a bunch of lines, or if you have a bunch of people in your boat. It pays to have your lines spread out over a wide area. This will just help you cover more water and find walleyes quicker. So I would highly recommend checking out the offshore boards. You know, they've been in the game for a long time and they make some excellent, excellent trolling boards. Now today we have a bunch of different sonar technology at our fingertips, but one tool that I really, really like to use is an underwater camera. Now right here we have the AquaView HD 10i. This is actually the unit that I use all throughout the winter. Every chance I get, I fish with the camera. A couple different applications you can use it. If you want to check out the habitat, the cover that you're fishing, you can drop down a camera. figure out what the whole lay of the landscape is before you fish it. Additionally, if you're marking fish and you're not 100% sure what they are, you can drop down the camera to confirm what you're seeing. Now, once you've found fish, whether it's on the camera or the sonar, or maybe you've hooked up with a few fish, I know it's old school, but don't forget about marker buoys. A lot of guys don't use marker buoys anymore, and they would consider them to be a thing of the past, but in a lot of cases, they're still really useful. So what you might use marker buoys for is if you catch some fish or there's a school of fish, you can put the buoy right in the middle of that school, and now you have something visual that you can look at, you can cast at, and if you're not an expert with bow control and electronics, it can actually be a more accurate way to stay on top of the fish. Now, if you're looking to spool up your walleye rod, I would recommend checking out the Northland Bionic Walleye Braid. Now, what's interesting about this particular braid is that it's camo, but it also has little indicators, strike indicators, throughout the line to help you detect bites. Now, right here on the table, we have 6-pound, 8-pound, and 10-pound. All of those different sizes are gonna be great for walleye fishing. Now, next up, right here, we have the Seafoam high mileage motor treatment. Now, what you use this for is for engines that have 75,000 miles or more. It also works great if you have a ticking sound in your lifters. Just pour a half a can into the oil crankcase and it'll quiet it right up. Now, last but not least, if you're gonna be spending any time out on the water this summer, I would highly recommend protecting yourself from the sun. What I have right here is the Blackfish Gator, and what this will do is protect your neck, your face, your ears, your nose from the sun, and it has chemical-free cooling technology that'll actually keep you a little bit extra cool during the summertime, which is always, always handy. Now, all these products can be found at your local Fleet Farm store or on fleetfarm.com. Now, next up, we're gonna be checking out the technique of the week.
When I say I haven't used live bait on a jig for like 10 years or better, and I can outfish live bait most of the time, not all the time. But the reason, one of the mistakes when I have people in the boat with me is that when they put plastic on the back of a jig, the way they fish it is the same way they fished when they had a minnow or a piece of night crawler or a leech. And what I mean by that is they fish the old cliche, fish the lightest jig you can get away with and fish it real slow. And that's fine as long as you got bait on there. And they fish plastic the same way and they don't catch the amount of fish that you do when you fish with plastic. The thing when you go to soft bait and you get off the bait, you fish a little bit heavier bait and you fish much more aggressive. You snap the rod. You gotta snap that bait off the bottom. That's the best advice I can give you after watching a lot of people try this a lot of times with a lot of different baits. The mistake that they make is fishing it the same way you would with live bait. You gotta really fish the bait aggressive. You gotta really snap it, snap it, snap it.
Yeah, you know, I've been in the boat with Al when he's rip jigging like that, and he's not joking when he says he fishes fast. If I could give you one piece of advice, if you're gonna go out and try and do this, it's once you think you're fishing too fast, you need to speed up even a little bit more. Now, that's all we got for this week's show, but coming up next week, we have Tony Roach, and we're gonna be talking all about fishing made easy. Now, I also want to remind you, next time you're out on the water and you got your boat at the landing, don't forget to clean, drain, and dry to help stop the spread of aquatic invasive species. Well, that just about wraps things up for this week. Thank you for watching. I am Nick Linder, and we will see you next week.
Want to learn how to catch more and bigger fish like largemouth and smallmouth bass? Or maybe you want to learn how to catch big walleye, monster catfish, or giant panfish all year round? Well, we got the place for you. Introducing the Fish Head Video Library. Now you can enjoy hour after hour of educational videos right on your phone, tablet, laptop, desktop, or even stream videos right to your TV. Is bass fishing your gig? We'll teach you everything you need to know about catching more largemouth and smallmouth bass. Or maybe you want to learn how to catch panfish like crappies and giant bluegills. Yep, we got you covered. After watching our panfish videos, you'll know when, where, and how to catch panfish no matter what the season. Check out Fishhead TV to rent, buy, or become a Fishhead member today.